is a special edition of WeatherScope with the latest winter storm update.
You are tuned to the Weather Channel for our exclusive coverage of the blizzard of 1996. I'm Mike Bono, and we're winding down right now, but it has been a tremendous storm, one of the biggest on history and the biggest on record in some major cities in the Northeast. And we'll get to that in just a minute. Right now, let's take you to the Northeast on video, a video tour of New York City. The Big Apple became the frozen apple, and the statues were pretty much frozen in place this morning. The best way to get around the park, Central Park, was on cross-country skis, and folks even getting around on the streets because there were virtually no cars on many of the streets encircling Central Park. The kids having a good time, and I heard from one person it wasn't even that cold during the storm. Chatham, Massachusetts, I'll tell you, with that wind coming in off the Atlantic, it felt very cold. We had turbulent surf, crashing surf, heavy snow, and some gusty winds up to gale or storm force, 2 to 2.5 foot tides above normal on the Massachusetts coastline, and that is really minor coastal flooding compared to what has often happened in Massachusetts, the Halloween storm, the nor'easter of December '92 from Massachusetts through Long Island. Long Island Sound did pick up some flooding from this, but the main problem here was the snow, and we take you to our snow history map, and we'll show you some of the totals that we saw in the Northeast and even down into parts of the South. We had over a foot by these little white blotches down into northeast Georgia in the mountains, up to 2 feet as you get into the northern mountains of North Carolina. Even Boone, North Carolina had almost 30 inches of snow. The town of Boone, North Carolina, up to 40 in southwest Virginia, up to 40 inches in West Virginia, mostly mountain reports, even 38 inches in York County in Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at some of the big totals that we have right now. We had a report of 32 inches in Elizabeth, New Jersey. We also had a second report of somebody that had 27 inches, but any way you look at it, Elizabeth had about 30. Philadelphia's biggest storm on record. Washington's Dulles Airport, 2 solid feet of snow, and D.C. itself was, I believe, 18 inches, which is not quite the largest storm on record there. LaGuardia Airport, 2 feet. That's getting there. The biggest ever in Central Park was 26.5 back in 1947. We can take a look at some 24-hour totals right now, and they are truly impressive. Philadelphia, 27.6 inches. And there's Washington's Dulles showing up again with almost 20 inches in 24 hours, and that's never happened before. Roanoke and Lynchburg having record-breaking snowfalls, and even Cincinnati. And you know, another problem with this storm has been the airport closures, and I was checking on this, some of them trying to open by late this afternoon, but as of last check, major airports, including Hartford, from Boston to all the New York City airports, Islip is even closed, Farmingdale on Long Island closed, down to Richmond and Philadelphia and Washington's airports. This is truly a memorable event in terms of travel problems and the snowfall amounts that you've seen. And there's a ripple effect too. You had some airports that have been experiencing tremendous cancellations and delays because they wanted to connect with some of those airports in the eastern United States. So a very impressive snowstorm, one of the biggest that we've ever seen, and we're continuing to compile those reports as they keep coming into the Weather Channel. Let's take a look at the satellite photograph right now, and you can see our storm as it begins to pull off the east coast. The low pressure system is, but as you can see, we have those bright blue clouds over Maine and into parts of southern New England, the Jersey Shore, and even Long Island. There's snow under some of those clouds, and it's just not out of there quite yet. We'll zoom on in and show you where the low pressure system is located, just south of Cape Cod, with some fairly heavy snow from southern Maine into southeast parts of New Hampshire, eastern Mass, and down into New Jersey. Then it tapers to the south, and it has ended altogether west of Washington and Philadelphia and upstate New York, where Binghamton never even got any snow. Binghamton almost equaling their usual annual average as of a couple of days ago. Binghamton having a record-breaking month in December, didn't even get anything out of this. So there's the Maine coast getting a little bit of snow. That's the dark green into the Boston area, Long Island, most of New Jersey, but notice southwest of Philadelphia, finally putting this one into the history books. From Portland to the islands of Maine, Monhegan Island and off toward Port Clyde, still getting some snow. Around South Weymouth, Massachusetts, the general Boston metro vicinity, it's snowing and slowly slacking off from the west, but there's another band over western Connecticut and Massachusetts, but things are thinning out nicely in Philadelphia and on into Delaware and even the Washington-Baltimore areas. Still through tomorrow morning, expecting 3 to 6 inches of additional snow in the east, and a new storm beginning to brew in the Great Lakes with up to 3 inches. We no longer have coastal flood warnings or watches but still those storm warnings up north of Delaware Bay, and a lot of those will be lowered to gale warnings as we go further into the late afternoon and early evenings. But still, with the kind of cold we have and the snow on the ground, gale winds are going to put that bite in the cold. We're going to see wind chills of 10 to even 20, 25 below zero in some of the major cities in the Northeast. So you just want to sort of not go out to do any kind of activities, both because of the wind chill and the fact that the snow is so deep in that area. So it's been a memorable storm, and there's been some cold in Florida too. We'll cover that and some weather around the country coming up right here on the Weather Channel.
Guess what? They just got in those new reduced fat Gardettos at the store.
Reduced fat?
Uh-huh.
Some people will do anything for the robust taste of reduced fat Gardettos.
It's out there, waiting on your steps, your sidewalk, your driveway. It laughs at rock salt. It's ice. It fears only heat. Prestone introduces new driveway heat. Each concentrated pellet heats up like a furnace to melt up to 4 times more ice than rock salt with no messy residue. Put your driveway in the Prestone zone with new driveway heat and kiss your ice goodbye.
New Prestone driveway heat melts up to 4 times more ice than rock salt.
It's time for this afternoon's weather, and it is sponsored by Gardettos. Some people will do anything for the robust taste of Gardetto's snack mix. Well, there's the current weather map. We've already talked about the storm exiting the northeast coast, tapering off with the snow and the wind eventually by later tonight. We've had some thick fog in the valley in California, and as you notice, you go to the west, also some rather dense fog still at this hour on the east side of the Cascades and actually right into the gorge as you're heading towards Portland. Our forecast tomorrow shows another weather system making farther progress inland, so we'll have more rain to deal with, and it should slip a little farther south. By late in the day, it could be moving its way towards San Francisco. Fast-moving cold front from Canada ushers in a blanket of light snow into the northeast and parts of the mid-Atlantic tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. But pretty quiet over the southern plains, the southeast, and heading towards the Gulf Coast. There are your lows tonight. Very chilly. This will be our coldest night this season in Florida, so we do have the freeze advisories in effect. They go all the way south past Tampa, even in southern Florida. While it may not get quite to freezing in most locations, we do expect temperatures to get pretty close to it as you go into the interior, even in southern Florida. The highs for tomorrow, 50s and 60s near the Gulf Coast, still in the 40s over the northern Gulf Coastal region. You'll find some 20s and 30s in the Ohio Valley. And then Wednesday and Thursday looks pretty comfortable over the southwest and the southern plains. So we're setting up for what should be a return to some milder air, but only briefly because the upper air winds are forecast to change dramatically. And that means that we'll see a shifting south of the main jet stream once again. And as we get into Friday, that shifting south of the jet stream or the associated storm track would tend to pull some of the colder air into the south once again. And we could be looking at the development of another storm system. The longer range computer charts are indicating that with the jet stream displacing to the south, which appears quite probable, that a system will organize and then slide northeastward along the coast. But it's way too early to actually estimate how much, who, and how strong the storm will be. But certainly it does appear that there will have some type of system somewhere along the eastern strip of the U.S. as we get to the very end of the week. And then Saturday, we show you more teens and 20s over the upper Midwest, extending westward into the Rockies. And look at those, 70s and 80s in the southwest corner of the country. Quiet day Wednesday in the southeast. You'll be gradually warming over the next several days. Southern plains, pretty quiet, likewise in the southwest. Then we'll see this weather system. Now what happens is the ridge is dominating the west. An upward disturbance drops from the top of the ridge and starts sliding to the south. It'll probably pick up some speed. And we sweep these clouds southeastward from the Ohio Valley into the mid-south. You'll be dealing with snow or rain and snow mixed. Showers along the Gulf Coast. It's tough to actually estimate where that rain-snow line would be at this point. However, we do know that this system coming in from the northwest initially, it'll be moving into dry air. There's not really going to be much of an opportunity between now and the time this system approached to really push a lot of moist air into the south. At least we don't think so. So the rain-snow line actually could start to drop, make a big jump as you go from Thursday late in the day into Friday. Now, what does that so-called big jump mean? Well, it's possible that rain could change over to snow pretty far south. And again, the system, as it starts curving northeast, spreading a shield of frozen or freezing precipitation from parts of the mid-south, the southern Appalachians, and then targeting it for the mid-Atlantic and eventually the northeast. But again, I think we've all had plenty to work with over the last 24 to 48 hours. But it does appear that we'll have some type of system. We'll keep you certainly posted on any changes with the next system that's forecast to develop and move up along the eastern coast. Stay tuned. We'll have more for you in just a moment.
No one else is up, so you only need one freshly brewed cup.
Wake up to Folgers Coffee Singles, made with ground roast mountain-grown Folgers in its own filter.
The best part of waking up
is singles in your cup.
And now your local forecast. Accurate, convenient, and dependable. Only on the Weather Channel.
You've chosen to be your own boss. Running your own business means doing what you love, doing what you do best, except one thing you don't love one bit, doing the books. Well, now you can say goodbye to your bookkeeping hassles forever, because the makers of Quicken have invented QuickBooks, the #1 selling accounting software that makes it fast and easy to do the things you don't love doing, like paying bills, writing invoices, figuring out what your customers owe, even tracking inventory and doing payroll. QuickBooks makes it all hassle-free. How's this for fast information? A click, and QuickBooks shows you this quarter's income and expenses. And look, a few keystrokes, and QuickBooks does your invoicing for you, and then does the bookkeeping automatically. So you can get back to doing what you do best, growing your business. It's even easy to try QuickBooks. Call now to get a trial version for just $8 through this special limited-time TV offer.
That number again, 1-800-230-5522.
I used to bring her here as a baby. She was born feisty and hasn't let up yet. A couple weeks ago, she got these headaches. She could have taken Tylenol or Advil, but I thought maybe we should call the doctor. That's how we found Aleve.
Take it every 8 to 12 hours.
Tylenol's not 8 to 12.
Advil's 4 to 6. I'd have to take up to twice as many a day.
She took Aleve, and that was that. She's a wonderful daughter.
Thought I was feisty.
Aleve. All day strong, all day long.
Exposures is a weekly show about the raw power of nature.
There's a gas leak! Let's go! Turn around that way!
earthquakes, hurricanes, and tornadoes.
Look at this structure!
It's a show packed with amazing photography, new technology, and vital information. Because no matter where you live, dangerous weather exists. It affects you.
We weren't prepared for this type of devastation.
It touches your life.
Watch Exposures, weekends at noon Eastern on the Weather Channel.
This Gears forecast is sponsored by Maximum Strength Comtrex. For your miserable cold, Comtrex does it all. Great skiing conditions can be found in the west despite the fact that we have a big ridge of high pressure. There's still plenty of snow out on the slopes, as you can see by the bases from Steamboat heading up to Whistler in British Columbia. Winter Park, powder conditions, 100% of the terrain open for skiing, and likewise at Vail with the powder and fully open. North Star, if you're heading up to North Star in the Sierra, 13 to 24-inch base with groomed conditions. Additional snow through early tomorrow morning confined to the northern Rockies and some slopes in Washington and Oregon, but generally fair weather. We'll have some high pressure. The storm track is located to the north right now, and it probably will stay that way into the end of the week. Well, it's time now to take a look at some additional ski information.
You could take this for your stuffy nose, this for the cough, this for the aches and pains. Or you could take Comtrex. Comtrex has all the medicine you need to relieve all your major cold symptoms. So why take all these when Comtrex does it all?
It's just the morning and you don't need to caffeinate it for two.
Wake up to Folgers Coffee Singles, made with ground roast decaffeinated coffee for one freshly brewed cup.
The best part of waking up
Is Singles in your cup.
Know what conditions to expect when you reach your destination. Watch the Business Travel Forecast, only on the Weather Channel. Weather you can always turn to.
Sun, snow, rain, or fog. Know what to expect. Just 95 cents a minute. Dial 1-900-WEATHER and connect.
Roseland Bowl. It's a whole lot of fun and games. Sure, Roseland has great bowling for all ages. League or open bowling is a blast for everybody. Wait till you see your Tiny Tykes try bumper bowling. But now, Roseland Bowl invites you to try golf balls, too. Yep, it's simulated golf, and it's a smash. Plus, super facilities for office, parties, and church, group, or club outings. And you've got one great family entertainment center. Roseland Bowl. More fun and games than ever.
Sales, we're the people to see for your heating, electrical, and plumbing needs.
Come to HEP Sales for quality kitchen cabinets. That's right, we stock kitchen cabinets, 5 complete lines. Our computer design system will show you what your dream kitchen will look like. And as always, if you purchase your kitchen from us, you'll receive your countertop free.
At HEP Sales, with all that we've got, you've got it made.
you're about to travel, watch the 5-Day Business Planner here on the Weather Channel at 20 minutes after every hour. You get a comprehensive national report that covers the forecast over the next 5 days. Watch the 5-Day Business Planner coming up soon on the Weather Channel.
Portland, Maine getting in on a little bit of the snow action, 6 inches in 3 hours. Let's take a look at our radar from the coast of Maine. There's Portland out at the Jetport, official 6 inches in the last 3 hours, 2 inches for each hour, and it's coming down hard. It'll continue to do that. You can see that streak of heavier precipitation along the coast of southern Maine. Now, this is a Doppler out of Taunton, Mass, located east of Rhode Island. There's the radar site. I had that heavier snow band up at Cape Ann earlier today. I'll go back about an hour or so here, and you can watch the motion of that heavier snow band. It moves right through Boston, sliding south, probably getting some heavier snow at this hour across a large part of western Rhode Island, western Narragansett Bay, and heading into southeast Connecticut around New London and Groton, some heavier snowfall. Farther south, out on the island, still catching some of the snow. Looks like it's tapering off a little bit, and we get one last streak or burst of heavier snow moving from the Litchfield Hills, dropping south. So if you're in New Haven and it's not snowing very hard, it'll probably pick up very shortly.
Can your radio do this? Only one radio can give you stereo sound this big, yet is small enough to fit almost anywhere. The extraordinary new Wave radio from Bose. Press the remote control and hear sound from a radio like you've never heard before. Big, rich sound that fills the room. You hear music the way it was meant to be heard. Clear, full, incredibly lifelike. You've got to hear the Wave radio to believe it. And now you can, in your own home. Satisfaction guaranteed. Call us toll-free to learn how, and we'll deliver the Wave radio to your door. Experience big stereo sound from a radio. Call today for more information. It will make a difference in the way you listen to music. Big difference.
You know how some recipes call for alcohol. Well, I bet they don't mean from a cooking spray. So I'm giving you Crisco Spray a shot. It's free of alcohol, so the taste is lighter than a leading spray. I can have lots of reservations, but none of them are about new Crisco Spray.
At 42 minutes after the hour, you can find out what the weather is like in Germany and Spain. At 42 minutes after the hour, you can see the temperatures for Italy and France. And at 42 minutes after the hour, we explain how the conditions for England and Russia can affect travel plans. Watch International Weather, now 42 minutes after every hour, only on the Weather Channel. Weather you can always turn to.
Well, let's take a look at the 5-day planner. It does include perhaps more development along the East Coast as we get into the end of the week. To get us there, we have our first system, though, after it's dropped historic records of snow in some locations. It moves out to the northeast. It's actually getting booted by the approach of the next system from Canada. This one, by the way, will spread another shield of lighter snow across the Ohio Valley. But it looks like timing-wise that snow will progress into northwest Ohio by tomorrow morning, and then as it moves across the state, there could be several inches, not out of the question, perhaps anywhere from 2 to as much as 4 inches of snow tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening across the northern third of the state. A high pressure behind that will move into northeast Minnesota. Snow overspreads New England tomorrow night. The mid-Atlantic will get some more light snow. And then here's our weather system in the west. This one brings a promise of more rain, or at least more wet weather, to California, North California, Washington, and Oregon. A bit of snow will come into the Cascades. The snow level will drop a little bit as that surface cold front moves farther south. Speaking of cold, freeze advisories in effect tonight for a large part of central and northern Florida with temperatures in the 20s. Warming it back up tomorrow. Hopefully it'll get into the 50s and some 60s as we get to the Gulf Coast. The real big warming takes place here in Texas, and the Southwest is going to be a warm spot this week with highs in the 70s and 80s. Upper air jet stream starts to intensify and drops pretty far to the south, and we start pulling some of that colder air down at the same time. Saturday, highs in the 60s, at least that's the way it looks now for Dallas and San Antonio. Pretty quiet over the southeast Wednesday. There's that first system. It cuts out on Wednesday. Next one comes east, but as it's moving east, it's starting to drop farther south because the upper air winds are going to make it turn abruptly this way. And with so much dry air preceding the arrival of this system coming in from the northwest, we don't think there will be a significant influx of warmer, moist air necessarily coming in from the Gulf. So we should see a fair amount of evaporation or cooling. What that will do probably is drop that rain-snow line, do a big jump in a short period of time, and then we'll have to watch to see exactly where this next one forms. It looks like somewhere here on the coastal plain heading northeast could bring more heavy snow to parts of the east as we're heading into the weekend.
It's out there. It's ice, and it fears only heat. Driveway heat from Presto melts up to 4 times more ice than rock salt with no messy residue. Get new driveway heat and kiss your ice goodbye.
New Prestone Driveway Heat melts up to 4 times more ice than rock salt.
Well, traveling almost impossible for many spots after the recent storm northeast cutting into the northern mid-Atlantic. And to make matters even worse, the snow will leave. The snow tapers off and comes to an end, but then there's enough wind out there so that we have blowing snow, which will tend to reduce visibilities considerably from here right on into probably at least tomorrow morning. A little bit of sleet and snow, some freezing drizzle cutting across the lakes tonight, but we think that'll push into northwest Ohio perhaps as early as tomorrow morning, and a little bit of snow and some rain for the Pacific Northwest. We mentioned the wind problem combining with the heavy snow, and those winds still gusting as far south as Florida, the plains, and from Wyoming north to Montana. Take a quick look at a radar for you out of Boston. You can see those snow bands still snowing pretty hard as you cut across Rhode Island, southeast Connecticut. Bit of a break, and then a separate band of heavier snow pushing just east of the Berkshires.
International weather. Now, 42 minutes after every hour, only on the Weather Channel. Weather you can always turn to. And now your local forecast. Accurate, convenient, and dependable. Only on the Weather Channel.
This is a special edition of WeatherScope with the latest winter storm update. Well, thanks for tuning into the Weather Channel. Mike Bono with you on this latest update on the blizzard of 1996, a very young year on the calendar, but a very big year in the record books. In fact, the complete summation of snow anywhere from the Washington area up through New York City, including the mountains and right down to the coast, one of the biggest storm totals ever on record in the Northeast United States. Let's take a look at some of the pictures that we have right now out of New York City. And it's still looking like this. The snow was even letting the statues look like they were frozen in place this morning. And cross-country skiing was the way to go around Central Park, which can be a lovely experience on a day like this. Very quiet. And even on some of the streets, that was the way to get around in the streets and canyons of Manhattan instead of the usual traffic jams that you'd have this time of the day. Meanwhile, to the north in Chatham, Massachusetts, another one of those ocean storms with some crashing surf right on the ocean front itself. High water of 2 to 2.5 feet above normal gave us what was some minor coastal flooding. It could have been a lot worse, but the snows in Chatham and throughout the New England area, throughout Cape Cod, over 1 foot, and even up to 1.5 feet right around the Boston area itself. Let's take a look at the storm history right now, and we'll sum it up for you from north to south and east to west. All this white is what we have in the terms of 1 foot or more of snow, even some snow totals that go out to Missouri that were 6 to 12 inches. But the purple is a newer number that we've come up with, or a newer shade that we have on the map, which means 24 inches or more. That was the 2 foot line from around New York City down into Philadelphia. The mountains got up to 35 to 45 inches in West Virginia. We had up to 2 feet in the North Carolina mountains and 1 foot as far south as the northeast Georgia mountains. Let's take a look at some of those tabular totals, and they are truly incredible. Elizabeth, New Jersey with over 30 inches. Philadelphia's biggest storm on record, bar none. Washington's Dulles Airport, 25 inches of snow. Roanoke coming in with 22, and New York's LaGuardia, 24 inches. Now Central Park has had 19.5, which puts it right behind the blizzard of 1888, number 3, and all-time snow totals. Talk about all-time 24-hour totals. Philadelphia broke your record with 27.6 inches. Roanoke and Lynchburg both over 20. These are 24-hour totals, running totals. Washington's Dulles was up there with almost 20 inches of snow, and Cincinnati 12.8 in just 24 hours. Now, as you might expect, it's been wreaking some havoc and reaping a lot of snow. In the transportation or the travel problems, we've seen closed airports anywhere from Boston down to LaGuardia and Newark. The list goes on. I don't remember ever seeing this many airports closed for so long a time, from mid-Virginia, the Washington area, all the way on up into a good chunk of well, the northeastern United States. So there you have it, a very incredible snowstorm, and we'll take a look at the satellite photograph right now and radars in just a minute to show you the magnitude of this storm, which still continues to swirl around the New England states, and it's just moving on up and off the coast. But all this blue is where the snow has been coming down on the Maine coast, parts of southeast New Hampshire, eastern parts of Massachusetts, and still another burst of snow recently around New York City and southwest Connecticut. But it's beginning to shut off. You see the western edge pivoting around Pennsylvania, the Delaware Valley, and Baltimore and Washington, beginning to dry out and shut off from the west. But it's also pivoting inland on the north side of this intense low pressure system, up around the Maine coastline, southeast New Hampshire, eastern Massachusetts, and even Rhode Island, and another burst of snow coming in toward northern New Jersey and New York City. But you can see it's a very limited area right along the coast generally that even has this snow. We take you back just about 24 hours. You can see how the snow is falling heavily in Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and then it sort of pivoted off and began to end actually around Washington and Dulles Airport in Baltimore. You can see some of it hanging in there around New York City, but it's also spreading from Massachusetts into the coastal plain of Maine. And we go up in that direction, showing the Maine coast and the islands, and even down to Portland, coming in with steady snow, some of it a little bit more than light, still accumulating down to the Boston area, southeast New Hampshire, but getting a lot thinner on the radar echoes and also in the snow coming down from the sky right around New York City, although you will have some more snow showers. New Jersey almost cleaned out now, and west of Philadelphia it looks very nice. So we're looking at our snowfall expectations, which still have 6 to 12 inches through 7 a.m. tomorrow, and a new area that we're going to develop a little bit later in the evening for you coming up from the upper lakes, parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, and that'll be moving Clipper style to the east-southeast. Now, we don't have any more coastal flood watches in effect or warnings, but marine warnings still there, the storm warnings in parts of New England, and they'll most likely be lowered to gale warnings as we go on into this evening. So the storm finally showing signs of winding down, but still snowing kind of hard from Maine to the New Hampshire coast to around the Boston coastline. But there's a lot of cold air behind it. And back to the studio for the story on that.
Okay, Mike, thanks a lot. And we can check your forecast in just a moment, but let's talk a little bit about what's going on first in the western part of the country, and then we'll show you also some of the colder air. Thick fog, a bit of a problem for travelers today in the west, and that's going to be with us into the afternoon as we have that layer of cool, moist air in the valley, and the winds are not kicking up enough to disperse any of this. And also some thick fog still residing as we head into the interior of Washington and Oregon. Let's take a look at what's happening farther east. You notice high pressure right over the Four Corners, gusty winds over the northern Rockies, and there's plenty of cold air as you head into the northern plains. We have some 20s in Minnesota, but for this time of the year, it's not too bad. You notice what happens as you go to the west, the Black Hills in the 40s, so we have that warmer Pacific Ocean air trying to budge its way in from the west, and the colder air has just dumped south to the Gulf Coast, just barely getting up into the 30s for many spots in the southeast, and a cold one coming up tonight for Florida. In fact, once the winds subside later on tonight, it does appear that a large part of northern and central Florida will fall easily into the 20s, and some of those normal cold spots in the panhandle could drop on down into the teens. So a definite frosty looking forecast. Even in southern Florida, where we don't have freeze advisories officially, it will fall into the 30s. We could see plenty of mid-30s pretty far to the south. So this will be the coldest air you've seen in quite some time. Here's your forecast coming up. As you notice, this next system comes in from Canada. It's going to move through fairly quickly, but it will have enough time to spread a shield of snow across Ohio. It may move it into Toledo by early tomorrow morning, and that may make the rush hour a little more slick. The snow will overspread the state. It looks like the heaviest snow will probably fall in the northern part of Ohio, but we could see a couple of inches by tomorrow afternoon, and then that snow will be moving itself across the mountains and developing farther east in New England tomorrow night and the mid-Atlantic. More rain and some mountain snow for the Pacific Northwest, although generally we do have a pretty big ridge of high pressure sitting over the western part of the country. It's actually giving way just enough to allow this system to make its presence known over northern and central California, with some cloud cover increasing and perhaps some rain heading a little farther south on Tuesday. Wednesday's weather map shows the cold air banked over the northeast and the Great Lakes. Not terribly cold. Chicago, you're in the 30s on Thursday. What we think will happen is the upper air pattern is going to shift once again. A little disturbance comes over the top of this big ridge, but when it crests or reaches the top of that ridge, it's then going to dive significantly and quickly southeast bound, and that has a couple of implications which we'll talk about in a moment. First of all, though, you can see the effects on the temperatures. We'll see some of that colder air pushing a little farther south on late Thursday through Friday for the mid-south. 60s in Texas, with some downslope warming taking place, air descending from the mountains. You can see some 60s here in a small sliver of the western high plains, and the real warm spot will be in the southwest with highs in the 70s and 80s. In fact, even warmer here than it most likely will be as you head over to Florida. Wednesday's map, this is that disturbance as it moves in from the northwest. Does not have much going with it initially. It's going to be a little bit on the moisture-starved side, but as it starts to push its way to the southeast, now the disturbance actually will have a chance to intensify, and the reason it's going to intensify is it's moving into a more favorable upper air pattern. We have what we call a big upper-level trough, and that means the jet stream shifts pretty far to the south, and these disturbances, as they ride down in, they get a big kick out of it. They intensify and spin up lots of energy, and so what we think will happen is a storm system will try to form somewhere in association with that dropping system, and then we could see it either go up the coast or another one reform. We'll have to see just how much cold air is available out ahead of this. It appears that, at least at this time, that while there will not be a fresh, bitterly cold Arctic air mass preceding this storm, there's certainly going to be enough cold air lingering through the week with the more extensive snowpack that we've built. So a little trade-off, but it may end up being equal. There's your wind in the southeast, rain to snow before ending, perhaps, because the rain-snow line could shift pretty far to the south with all the energy, the upper-level energy, and the jet stream plunging towards the Gulf Coast. And then there's that potential that the storm may do the old up-the-coast thing once again. But I want to emphasize right now, a little too early to pinpoint just how significant the storm would be. But it does appear that with the upper air pattern dropping to the Gulf and up off the East Coast, that it certainly is a potential as we head towards the week.
These antiperspirants, they're history, because now there's something that keeps you drier. Sure Ultra Dry. It's a better kind of antiperspirant, a soft solid. With just 2 clicks, it goes on dry to keep you ultra dry. Just watch. An ordinary solid can flake off, but Sure Ultra Dry vanishes in to form an invisible layer of protection that keeps you drier than ever before. Prove it to yourself. Sure Ultra Dry goes on dry, keeps you ultra dry.
Only one has the moves of Barry Sanders. Only one has his acceleration. Only one has his control. Only one has such breathtakingly perfect balance. Seville STS with the North Star system. A great performer creates a higher standard.
All right, let's check your Florida forecast. The big news today in the Sunshine State is, hey, how cold is it going to get tonight? Let's look at the satellite view, and what you'll find is plenty of clear skies for the most part over the peninsula as we go into this evening. The colder air crossing the warmer surface of the Gulf and the Atlantic, producing those cool-looking clouds. But the big story, as I mentioned, the cold air coming in tonight. It does appear with such dry air mass and a big storm that's dropped all this cold air into the state, it is going to get cold. All right, let's check out your forecast and see what's shaking. 59 at Panama City. Those are the water temperatures, 60s as far south now as Naples. It appears that there's going to be quite a bit of cold air, as we mentioned, mid-30s, well south into Florida. We'll see teens probably in the cold spots in the Florida Panhandle coming up tonight, and a freeze advisory is in effect for all of northern and central Florida, even cutting a little farther south of Tampa. Those are the afternoon highs. We hope we can climb on up to 61 in Jacksonville.
It's here, the official 1996 tornado calendar from the Weather Channel. 12 dramatic tornadoes and beautiful photography taken by noted storm chasers in one spectacularly colorful calendar. Use it at home or at work. A calendar you won't find in any store and makes a great gift, too. The 1996 Tornado Calendar can be yours for only $11.95. Call 1-800-626-9477. Call now. In those days, weather information was, well, just hearsay. But today, you've got 1-900-WEATHER. That's 1-900-932-8437, our weather telephone line, with forecasts and conditions for over 900 cities worldwide. Calls cost only 95 cents per minute. And if you need to call when you're away from home, say from a payphone, just dial 1-800-WEATHER and bill the call to your charge card. Anytime, anywhere, from any phone. Weather you can call on.
And now your local forecast. Accurate, convenient, and dependable. Only on the Weather Channel.
sore throat experts who harness the wild cherry, there's Luden's sugar-free, with a cherry flavor wild enough to be called Luden.
Working toward the weekend? Watch the Weekend Outlook to find out what the temperatures will be and if there's a chance of rain. Only on the Weather Channel.
International Weather is sponsored by Cadillac and your Cadillac dealer, creating a higher standard. Let's look at the satellite view. Plenty of warm air coming in off the Atlantic Ocean. Temperatures were 10 to 15 degrees above normal today in northern France, and a little bit of wind kicking up with this next weather system blowing on through. Let's see what the forecast holds as we show you the weather map for midday tomorrow. Low pressure west of Ireland, trailing cold front into central Portugal with showers out ahead of that. And it looks like another mild and fairly damp day for most of France, while the cold air is locked in from Germany eastward, where daytime highs will be in the 20s and the 30s. Athens near 50 with more wet weather. It's been a little damp recently. Tuesday, rain in the forecast with the approach of the front into Madrid. And in Paris, some showers with highs in the upper 40s. We'll have more on the cold weather and the snow along the New England coast in a moment.
Only one has the moves of Barry Sanders. Only one has his acceleration. Only one has his control. Only one has such breathtakingly perfect balance. Seville STS with the North Star system. A great performer creates a higher standard.
Sun, snow, rain, or fog. Know what to expect. Just 95 cents a minute. Dial 1-900-WEATHER and connect.
I was talking to my mother-in-law the other day, and I finally had to tell her, Discount Appliance World is my favorite appliance dealer, too. I wasn't sure how she'd take it, but it's brought us closer together. I'm on my way to pick her up right now. And yes, we're stopping over at Discount Appliance World. And check out the great lineup of ranges, refrigerators, TVs, VCRs, satellite dishes, and more. My mother-in-law, she's pretty smart. For those who are pretty smart.
If you'd like to meet your perfect match, don't just wait and hope it happens someday. You can make it happen today, and we can help. Hi, I'm Debbie Hovenard of Perfect Match. We're a team of professional matchmakers, and we're ready to work for you. Just give us a call, and I'll personally explain how we can help you meet your perfect match.
watching the Weather Channel for accurate forecasts at your convenience. Weather you can always turn to.
Huh. They say these little pills coat like Pepto-Bismol and relieve like Pepto-Bismol, but they don't taste like Pepto-Bismol? How do they expect people to swallow that?
With water, dear. Pepto-Bismol caplets. The comfort of Pepto without the taste.
Well, come on.
Oh, do you think it's possible after all these years?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Albert, it's changing color.
I knew it.
We've got hard water.
If your soap won't lather well, and if your skin feels dry, you might have hard water, and then you need Zest. So call 1-800-HARD-WATER for your free Zest test kit. If the test strip changes, change to Zest.
You're not fully clean and smooth unless you're zestfully clean.
We're not getting older.
You're getting smoother.
My asthma struck as my daughter started crying. It wasn't the time to try some unknown brand. I trust Primatene.
It starts to open clogged breathing passages in as fast as 15 seconds.
She depends on me. I depend on Primatene Mist.
Fastest type asthma relief without a prescription.
All right, let's give you an update on our winter storm, our thankfully departing winter storm, but not before closing down just about all of southern New England, airports, Long Island, the city, down to Philly. Best bit of advice, call ahead, get the latest. The information is subject to change. Now, they were in the process of doing snow removal at Logan, but then the winds were blowing the snow around so much, and then we had another batch of heavier snow come through, so they had to can that for a while. But again, it looks like the snow is tapering off in Boston, so perhaps they'll get an opportunity, if it doesn't blow around too much, to get back out and do some plowing on the airfield. We'll let you know. Of course, you know we've been talking about the record 24-hour snows involved within this storm at several locations, including Cincinnati, Ohio at 12.8 inches, Philly at 27.6, and overall for the system, well, Philadelphia right around 30 inches, Elizabeth, New Jersey at 29, and keep in mind that with any type of snow or rain event, you certainly can have a variation in the snow amounts. Even within a given area, there can be a 2 to 3 to sometimes as much as 4-inch difference between one side of town and another. LGA, that's LaGuardia, 23 inches, 25 out at Dulles, west of the nation's capital. Hartford at 17. Had a call earlier from a viewer in Glastonbury, Connecticut, just southeast of Hartford, reporting 20 inches of snow at that time. And as we mentioned, it's been a big storm, laying down over 2 to 3 feet in parts of the Appalachians.
Puts a smile on your face.
First thing everyone notices about my mom is her smile. It always worked magic. My dad calls it her secret weapon. So I understood why she was worried about keeping her gums healthy. She said, Mom, that makes 2 of us. And I told her exactly what my dentist told me. Switch to Crest Plus Gum Care. No other toothpaste is proven to help protect you against gingivitis. It'll help keep our gums healthier. It was nice playing the mom for a change. And it worked. Because the less my mom worries, the more she smiles. And I like that. It's your smile. Shouldn't you protect it with Crest?
It's out there, waiting on your steps, your sidewalk, your driveway. It laughs at rock salt. It's ice. It fears only heat. Prestone introduces new driveway heat. Each concentrated pellet heats up like a furnace to melt up to 4 times more ice than rock salt with no messy residue. Put your driveway in the Prestone zone with new driveway heat. And kiss your ice goodbye.
New Prestone Driveway Heat melts up to 4 times more ice than rock salt.
Know what conditions to expect when you reach your destination. Watch the Business Travel Forecast, only on the Weather Channel. Weather you can always turn to.
And now it's time for the Michelin Drivers Report, brought to you by Michelin and your participating Michelin dealers.
Plenty of snow, and where the snow has stopped, it's still blowing around because the winds are too strong. Give us a break, right? Well, the storm will get far enough out to sea that eventually will taper off just about all of the snow. But the winds will still be with us into at least the first part of the night, so blowing snow is certainly a problem. And then there's more snow for some of the higher elevations over the Pacific Northwest. Had some gusty winds around the Snowy Mountains in Wyoming this afternoon, and certainly from Florida north to New England. The winds will be with us into the first part of the evening before tapering off or decreasing, and some more wet weather could pick up, in fact, along the coast of Oregon and northwest California. Don't forget, still some thick fog to contend with. Let's check the latest radar out of Boston, and the snow tapering off around Logan Field, but north of you, around the North Shore, it looks like another batch of a little bit of heavier snow that'll probably sink on south, so we're kind of in and out of some of these heavier snow bands.
Presenting the ultimate tire for your sport utility vehicle, the Michelin LTX. Michelin's technological advances in sidewall and tread design give it a smoother, quieter ride than you might ever expect from a 4x4 tire. Yet it's rugged enough, tough enough, Michelin enough to get you through anything. The LTX series from Michelin.
Find Michelin tires at this dealer near you, because so much is riding on your tires.
How do you spend your week? Monday, it's back to work. Tuesday, you're getting in the swing of things. Wednesday is a carbon copy of Tuesday. By Thursday, you're anticipating the weekend. And when Friday comes along, it's every man for himself. Watch the Weekend Outlook only on the Weather Channel to find out what the temperatures will be and if there's a possibility of rain. So, for the weekend warrior, we offer the Weekend Outlook only on the Weather Channel. And now your local forecast. Accurate, convenient, and dependable. Only on the Weather Channel.